Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So we all know that the PlayStation 5 and the Switch, they both have some pretty interesting, rare, somewhat pricey games physically, especially as we move closer to an all-digital landscape for the future of gaming and collecting and owning games. But what about the Xbox? Xbox has Game Pass. A lot of people don't really buy physical games on Xbox, Xbox One and Series X. What does their sort of collecting scene look like? And I'm sure you probably saw the thumbnail, and it was not clickbait. A few weeks ago, I was actually tipped off during one of my eBay streams to the sale of an Xbox One Series X physical game that sold for nearly $1,000. And that game was the physical version of Auden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Now, this is a little bit of a bullet point here because in order to get the physical edition for this, you actually had to request it for the Kickstarter. So when you back the game on Kickstarter, and if you backed on a tier that would allow you to get a physical copy, you would have had to have selected the Xbox Series X or Xbox One physical copy. And apparently, probably fewer than 100 people did this, and now it is extremely, extremely rare. As you can see here, this sold from somebody in the UK, and it sold for nearly $1,000 USD, $953 plus whatever the shipping cost would be. So pretty much $1,000, which is bonkers. I don't think I've ever seen like a normal copy of one of these modern games sell for that much, even on PlayStation 5, the Switch. And just to be clear, for the purpose of this video, I really won't be focusing too much on collectors limited editions with these big box sets with statues and stuff, and I also won't be focusing on, to the best of my ability, games that were released purposely in limited quantities with certain companies. We're going to focus on games that mostly had just a normal retail release for the most part, but this one obviously was not a normal retail release, but it was just too fascinating of a sale to not mention here. And I did a little bit of research to see if I can find any price history on this, and I came across a Reddit thread where somebody was asking about, hey, can I get a physical copy of Auden Chronicle anymore on Xbox? And somebody replied, good luck. So far, I've only seen two pop up, and this was 7 months ago. One went for auction last year and sold for over $250. Lucky them, apparently, according to what it's going for now. I was bidding on this and barely lost, and another sold yesterday for $500. Buy it now. So they also provided a screenshot of January um, 11th for $500. So fascinating stuff here for Aiden Chronicle, and let's just move into the next game. And the next one that really piqued my interest as I kind of crawled through eBay to see if I can find some interesting listings for you guys of games that may take you by surprise. Physical copies of Lies of P, specifically for the Xbox Series X and Xbox One version. It's peaking out at about $120. Now, of course, the further that you scroll down, I have this sorted by highest first. You will see it kind of like start teetering off at around the $70 to $80 range. But keep in mind, the ESRB North American version is typically around $80. When you go down here, you start getting a few PAL copies. But just really interesting. I'm actually not 100% sure why this one in particular is going for so much, but my guess would be they didn't print a lot, as seems to happen with a lot of physical Xbox games. A lot of them go to Game Pass, and Xbox, maybe if we're lucky, does one single physical printing of the game, and then that's it. So people that are clamoring to own physical copies of this, and maybe they're more of an Xbox person, apparently it's not the easiest to get a hold of these games. And the next example of something similar going on with that is actually the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle game, which I have not yet played. I actually might be playing that soon. I think somebody may have picked that for me to play next on my streams pretty soon. But as you can see now, while this here is the standard edition, the more premium editions up here are going for nearly $200. But even if we just look at the normal editions, this game is going for $100 sealed, $80 sealed, but even used copies, right? This game's been out for quite a bit. Used opened copies, pre-owned, $80. That is highly unusual for opened physical games, and especially on the Xbox. And the case with this game was, I think it just got a single print run, a pretty small print run, and if I remember correctly, I think this physical copy doesn't even have the full game on the disc. It's like 50 gigabytes worth of the game, and then there's like an additional download. I could be wrong. Correct me on that in the description, or the description in the comments if you guys know for sure. But as you can see, I mean, for a game that's been out for quite a bit now, and by quite a bit, anything over a few months in this modern day. Like usually the prices dip so much faster. But the fact that this is going for MSRP or above MSRP for used copies is very telling for the physical landscape of Xbox One Series X games. Or in the case of this game, Series X, not Xbox One. So here's another one where the PS5 version of this is like 20 bucks. If you look here, $20 easily, Switch version $21, and that's Dokyoki Literature Club, a game that I played a few years ago for October and really enjoyed it. I don't typically play visual novel style games, and this is sort of like a visual novel game with a horror twist. If you haven't played it, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but it's really clever. I really enjoyed it. Definitely worth your time, but the Xbox version is going for big bucks, over $100 for the physical copy of this. Also something that you'll notice with Xbox games, if you look like even at Lies of P, it uses the white banner style. Dokyoki uses the white banner or the gray banner style. Oh wow, yeah, look at that. Okay, this one's a white banner. This one's a gray banner. There's so many variants. What was Auden? Auden was a white banner. Indiana Jones uses the more up-to-date one where it's like just a little green Xbox logo and then like there's no bar up here and then just a little tiny Xbox Series X and like an Arial font. There's so many different versions of box art for Xbox One Series X games and all that kind of stuff. And then you got one where they have like the logo in the top corner here, like for Dokyoki Literature Club. Let me zoom on this so you can see what I'm talking about. There's just so many. Let me tell you, if you're a collector of different variant boxes on Xbox, you got your work cut out. You see they got the little Series X logo up there. So many different ones. But yeah, and look at that. 4 sold for $115. So just a little bit of an odd one. I tried to pick out games for you guys that were maybe a bit under the radar. Like I said, I didn't really focus on games that are still fairly new with sealed copies that are going for like 70, 80, because who knows what's going to happen to the price of those once the hype dies down. And I'm not really doing the limited edition. So in terms of normal games that just kind of came out, here's another one. Evil West came out, believe it or not, a few years ago. Man, time flies. I've still been really wanting to play this game. Now, to me, you might look at this and be like, oh, there's no big deal. This one sold for $38. That one sold for $60. That one sold for $40, $48. But in the world of like modern day physical games, it is highly unusual for a game to come out 3 years ago and still be selling for this much money for a physical copy. That to me spells potential future rarity and desirability and potential for the price to go up in the future, because usually by this point these games would be probably around the $15 to $20, $25 range. So the fact that this game Evil West is sort of maintaining this upper $40 to $50 range, depending, even 60 if it's sealed, is pretty telling for me. And I believe you can still get this on Amazon, but for used copies on eBay, it's kind of alarming, and just something that I wanted to bring your attention to. And I still really want to play this game. It really reminds me of like a 360 era action game. Now here is one of the few games where I am highlighting a sort of edition style game, the Vengeance Edition for Shifu. The only reason is because in my quick searches, I don't think a normal physical copy of this was produced for Xbox. Maybe it was physically produced a normal edition on one of the other consoles, but from what I can see, yeah, PS5 looks to have a normal copy, but for Xbox, it seems like the only one that you might be able to get is the Vengeance Edition, and I've played this game a little bit. It's really great beat 'em up. One of the better 3D brawler style games I've played in recent years. But this one is nearing $100, and there are very few available for sale on eBay, and also very few that have sold. So something to keep your eye out for if you're into these sort of limited edition games to add to your collection. And another one that maybe is not so surprising, but you would think that the print run on this would have been staggeringly high, but apparently it's not that high because the price is still somewhere in the $50 range, upwards of $70 for sealed copies of Skyrim Anniversary Edition. And in my quick search, I think the Xbox version is actually a little bit more money than the PlayStation version. But yeah, look at this. Look at these prices. Everybody loves Skyrim, but, you know, not every... I mean, how many times do we need to buy Skyrim over and over and over? I haven't bought Skyrim since the VR version on PS5, but apparently that's not holding anybody back. They want to own Skyrim for the second, third, fourth, fifth time, and it seems like this may be the version to go with. I'm not actually sure what's on the Anniversary Edition. I would assume it's got all the DLC, and maybe it's got like some upresing. I don't know. But as I was scrolling through eBay, this one kind of caught my attention because it just seems like the kind of game that you would expect to maybe be $30, $20, $30, but it's kind of maintaining a $50 to $80 price range. So here is one that I feel also would have gone a bit under the radar, and most of the Sniper Elite games from what I've seen on Xbox One Series X, they are in the higher price ranges, but this is the most expensive one, so probably the most rare and hard to get a physical copy of, and that's Sniper Elite 5. I have not played this series, but like I said, I still wanted to draw attention to it for those of you that may be on the lookout for somewhat uncommon Series X Xbox One physical copies. The highest price recently just sold a few days ago for $80 plus shipped. Now, not all instances of this go for that much. When we're looking at the ESRB copies here, one from Canada for about 50 shipped. But if you're seeing here, most of them are not ESRB copies, and a lot of the, like, there not a lot have sold, and there's also not a lot available. Here's another one that sold for 60. So if you're into this series and you're specifically collecting for Xbox One, this is definitely one to keep an eye out for, because there's very few that have sold. Now, it wouldn't be an Xbox One physical collecting video without talking about like one of the OGs outside of this, and I think it was like The Amazing Spider-Man or something, which I'm not featuring in this video. But Deadpool used to be about a $60 game. The price has come down a bit, but this is really one of the higher priced. It kind of shows you what's really going on in specifically Xbox One, not games that are branded for Series X. This used to be one of the most expensive physical games you had to buy on Xbox One. Price has come down a bit. You can definitely sort of get this for around the $35 to $40 range now, but it is still maintaining a very decent price. To me, a game that is this old, 2015, a decade old, and it's still commanding $45 on Xbox One is pretty impressive. There's not too many other Xbox One games I could feature, so kind of giving Deadpool a shout out. Now here is one that probably received a very, very small print run on the Xbox. I would imagine the PlayStation 5 version of this may have received a lot more copies printed, but that is the R-Type Final 2, specifically Inaugural Flight Edition. I'm not 100% what that means. Probably got a little bit of DLC in there. But it does seem like this game is anywhere between $50 to $60-ish. We don't know what the offer price was that was accepted on this. But more importantly, very few have sold, and there's not many that are available. Actually, look at here. PlayStation copies of this, $30 for the same version. Here is just a normal version of it for $25. So it seems like the Xbox version is about double the price of the PlayStation version for R-Type Final. And really, the Xbox is not really synonymous with shoot-'em-up games. In fact, this is probably one of the very few that received the physical printing for the console. So I would not be shocked if this game continues to slightly increase in price over the years. Now, here's one that I was kind of debating putting in this video, but I'm like, you know what, it's just too interesting not to. So Mind's Eye, this game just came out, what, like a month and a half or so ago? 2 months has it been? Who knows? It's very recent. I streamed it, loved it because of how bad it was, honestly. But it shocked me to see that physical copies on eBay are still going for nearly MSRP price. $55, 40 something shipped, $60 sealed. This one went for over MSRP sealed for, I think the game was $60, right? Was this $70 physical when it first came out? Anyway, $70, I mean, that's impressive for a game that was reviewed so poorly. Usually these kind of games drop in price a lot faster. And they are continuing, I did check this before making the video, they are continuing the patch Mind's Eye. They have a patch planned for August and September to continue to enhance the game. There's no word on them actually adding like new gameplay stuff like the online multiplayer, but they are continuing to patch the game and do performance patches and such. But as you can see here, there's quite a bit of people buying this game at pretty high prices. I was hoping to see that if we can find a PlayStation version on here, but so yeah, Mind's Eye. Keep your eye out for this one. It may be something where in like 5 to 10 years time, when it's absolutely dead and out of print, maybe we find out that the Xbox version of this, the print run was like extremely small, and for some reason the morbidly curious that want to try the game out, maybe when it's fully patched, may actually want to pick up a copy of this game. I do not recommend that you buy this game right now for this price, though, but it is kind of one that caught my attention. And then lastly is one that is another interesting case of physical Xbox games retaining their value. So the PlayStation version, a physical copy of Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, is about $35. But the Xbox versions, whether that's sealed or used, are slightly higher on average compared to PlayStation. So you will see copies on here that are going for like the $45 range, $50 range. Some of them sealed are still going for near release price. So I just thought it was interesting. Maybe it's just because Xbox, as usual, probably gets a smaller print run for physical. I don't think this game was Game Pass, so I guess on Xbox you would have had to have bought it physical. But it's going to be really interesting, and I wanted to highlight this one in this video just so we can kind of have like a timestamp of this. What's the price of this going to look like a few years from now if it's maintaining a slightly higher than average price that we would normally see on a game like this so long after it launched? Because this game came out, what, like half a year ago? It's been a bit since Space Marine 2. Actually, over half a year, great, because this was featured for Game of the Year contender for last year. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where this goes in the future. And is there some sort of weight behind owning physical Xbox games? Not everybody has a PlayStation. Maybe some people prefer to play on Xbox because it's a nice backwards compatible machine. So anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. There's a lot more I could have featured, but I didn't want the video to be too long. But if there's any Xbox, like especially normal retail release games, not ones that are associated with like these companies that purposely print games in a limited quantity, I'm more interested in the ones that kind of just hit store shelves normally and somehow just become organically rare and expensive on their own. So if you have any games for Xbox One, Series X specifically, physical versions that you are like, wow, this is really actually hard to get a physical copy of, or oh, this one is still $40 and it's been out for 5 or 6 years, that kind of stuff, leave a comment below. I'd be really interested in knowing, as well as a lot of other people I'm sure that are Xbox collectors out there. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.